Somebody's just murdered
Very
a child
excited
outside.
crowd here in these finals.
And the Lee on the far side, they're off.
Yeah. Now this is very interesting actually. This is almost a rematch from last year, because seven of the rowers from each of these crews, only one person, these all raced each other in the final last year. So if you missed out on last year, this is like watching the iPlayer for you guys. This is brilliant.
But the steering's gone here, and they have got tangled up in the buoys. Umpire's got his flag out. Lee have moved away. Well, I tell you what, how on earth they didn't collide there will be a mystery.
Wow.
They've straightened up, and Vesta have come off better.
They have indeed. I think it was a lead. They've certainly come over a long way there.
Yeah, well, if that was a bit of woodwork, they'd have been in real trouble. Lee have come over. Again, Vesta have gone into the middle. This is a real battle. I think we decided that the Lee won this last year.
I think so. We'll have another look through the archives. I think we'll get that confirmed for you. But this is fascinating.
Lady came and provided us the information. So 7 of these 8 competitors were up against each other last year. I bet they didn't have a start like that last year. That was incredibly exciting. It's Vesta that have the advantage. They're still both rated extremely high. Lee are being warned to get over on their station. They duly oblige. So it's a good fight.
It really is. I mean, yeah, so like we say, that rematch from last year. It's actually Lee that did win that one last year. They won the club one. And the only reason that there's one person missing from that year is because she's having a baby. And it's due in the next couple of days, so we wish her the best of luck with that. Meanwhile, there's about a 3/4 length lead there for Vesta. And this is going to be very close. Both crews sticking to each other like glue almost here.
Yeah, and the umpire's having to work here because they are pretty keen to know what each other's doing. And it's that old classic of if you stay long enough at the crew alongside you end up being attracted towards them, and that's what's happened again. The Lee warned again.
They are.
Can we move over?
Something serious. Maybe they're trying to play it safe with the booms or something. Maybe they're just trying to. Maybe it's a psychological thing.
Well, they're actually rowing in Vesta's puddle there, so that's not.
So it wouldn't be the best place to be.
No, here they go. They're going to have a push. This is a cracking race.
It is. I mean, look at this. Very high rating from both. There's a lot of reach there from the Vesta 4 as well. That's giving them just as much time in the water as possible to send away. And compared to the Lee one, that's running up to the catch here, probably a little bit of delay there as well, which is probably costing them.
And a huge amount of noise coming from the packed enclosures. Probably one of the busiest days I've ever seen here. Certainly the biggest entry we've had this year. The nicest weather. And for me, probably the best Henley Women's Regatta that I've attended. Absolutely fantastic racing. Brilliant atmosphere. And here we go. Here's Vesta. Trying to right last year's result by taking the win here, and they are just over a length.
So they're going to be going for the bragging rights here as we come to the end of the regatta enclosure. I mean, it's fantastic to see these shots over Henley course, Henley Women's Regatta this year. That's quite an accolade from us. Yeah, it's absolutely. And there you go. You see Lee going over again. I mean, it makes me wonder if there's something going on with the steering there. They're not doing themselves any favours here.
Well, they're pushing so hard. I think something's had to give, and it's been the steering. But it was interesting at the start that Vesta, pretty well, their blades certainly went off the course. They went behind the buoys, and it was just in that little bit of island there, so they got away with it. After that scare, they managed to get themselves in front, and now they're striding away. Really, really good stuff.
This looks really competent. It's just how rowing should be done here. It's just keeping the blades, everything nice and together. Really pulling through. Just coming into this final third. This is exactly where you want to be in a final. Coming into the final third.
So coming up next, it is the junior quads, Latimer Upper School and Henley. That's down at the start, waiting to get underway. Closing stages then, and yeah, I think Vesta have broken them. They've got clear, and they're really going to enjoy this final paddle home. Down at the start.
I'm afraid I can't really be enjoying it. I'm a member of Lee Rowing Club myself, so I'm a bit of a tough one to take this one, I think.
Well, you celebrated last year, so...
That is true, yeah. They say they can have the bragging rights this year.
Well, they look pretty relaxed down at the start there. There's no sign of them getting set to race. Yeah, interesting event this, the junior quads. Gloucester Hartbury have reigned supreme in this event probably for the last 4 years, maybe even longer. Henley, of course, won Henley Royal, the very first junior quads there. And talking to their coach, he thought this year they had a good chance because there is no Gloucester Hartbury. There is supposedly a pretty tidy crew coming over from the States, but you hear that every year, don't you? So
You do.
you've got to race what's in front of you, and here we go. So these two made it through to the final today for the junior quads. Latimer Upper.
Well, there they are, just very much
us.
hugging the boys there. But yeah, great start from both crews. Keep it almost neck and neck here.
And it's Henley on the left of your picture, nearest to the centre of this course. And at the top of the island, it's Henley that have just about got their nose in front. After this, we've got the aspirational academic eights. Then it's the championship quads, championship eights, and then the last race of the day was the race that has been moved
The junior
forward.
eights.
This was the junior eights because of the re-row. They've given the girls there a bit more time to recover.
My word, it's really flown by today. What a day we've had.
It always does, the finals. You know, they bang, 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 they come, and then you talk to your mates later and you say, well, who won that? And you say, well, I can't remember. But it was good.
It really was. I mean, speaking of good, we're looking at this Henley crew here. This is really competent crew. Lots of success in the National Schools Regatta, one in the quad. And the crew contains 3 GB trialists, all wearing Munich vests to go alongside last experience from Coupe and Junior Worlds. So there is a lot of experience even in this junior crew, and they're really showing that in this squad. They're coming past here, just coming past the commentary booth. There is still an overlap from Latimer, so they are not out of this by any stretch.
Yeah, they pass us. There's plenty of support here for both of these crews. And Henley do fancy being right over close to the booms. Not sure as their coach if I would really want them to be that close. However, they have the lead.
Yeah, I mean, just having a look at the shot here at the drone, it seems like quite an adjustment that does from Latimer. But yeah, coming down, there's the Henley crew you can see there, maintaining that long form. It's been really quick coming into the catch as well, just keeping the boat pace up, which is really important with these quads.
Yeah, Latimer really, I don't think they needed to adjust there. I think it was just as they put a push on, the power came on maybe one side more than the other.
I think it did,
And
yeah.
it's given them a bit of a
And that can be so lethal in these
bit
quads
of a
as well.
meander there,
Yeah.
which
But
is
I think that may have just cost them a seat or so. I think looking at this picture here, I mean, of course, let's not rule out this Latimer upper crew. These are winners of the Champ Girls quads at Schools Head, and they broke the course record there. Silver at National Schools Regatta in the Champ Girls quads as well. And so this is a really competent group. They know what they're doing. They'll be keeping their heads in the game here, heads in the race.
well, they definitely put a push on there. So whether that cost them a little bit, but they're definitely cranking it up. And as you can see from this shot, it's the crew on the left. Henley Rowing Club still have a lead. To the right of the screen, here come Latimer Upper.
This is where it's got to count now for Latimer.
Yeah,
this is
this
where
is it.
they've got to put those pushes in.
Yeah, we've been watching these images for the last 3 days, and you know when you get to that signalling box there, this is where they begin to wind it up.
And we can see that already from the Henley crew. They've suddenly just taken the rate up here very quickly, put their own burst in. This is where this is going to be sprinting now. This is what all the crowds have come down here to see in this sunshine, in this glorious sunshine down at
Big
Henley
crowd down
Regatta.
the finish, down at the chairman's enclosure, and there'll be plenty of parents, you bet your life, from Henley. But here come Latimer. Look,
Taking the rate up. They're really tugging on the oars there, really trying to push the boat away My goodness, this is a big sprint they're putting in. Whether it'll be enough, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see with the next
Well,
pictures.
the next camera angle gives us the last, I worked out it's sort of 15 odd strokes.
And here they come.
Here we come. Now, it's really deceiving. You think you can call this on the finish, but
well, I'm not sure about this one now.
It's
really close.
There's the start of the Brooks Newcastle race. That's going to be one.
That's the aspirational eights there.
But we do feel we ought to stick with these junior girls just at the moment. There's Henley at the top of the picture. Last couple of strokes.
My goodness me, they've really put the push in.
Latimer in the picture. There they are. No,
they've
done enough.
They've done it.
Okay.
What a race that was. Absolutely
Oxford
fascinating.
Brooks, Newcastle University, aspirational academic eights. I'm joined by Alex.
Yeah, that one's kindly sponsored by the Colgan Foundation. Now, this is what I live for, a bit of University 8s action. So, at the regatta, just to give you a bit of background information, this is a combination for both crews of their champ and intermediate 8s. In the champ 8s, Brooks was second and Newcastle were third, and it was 2 seconds between them. And in the inter 8s, Newcastle were first and Brooks were third, and again, it was 2 seconds between them. So this should be coming in, well, we should be in for a massive one here, but it's surprising that Brooks have got out this hard. We'll have to see if they have to pay for that one. But Newcastle, what, 2-time defending champions, at least. So they'll be certainly looking to defend this, but you know, Brooks are going to want to take that title away, and they are doing a good job of that so far.
Brooks have certainly come out the blocks there as they pass underneath our commentary position. Alex got so excited he's throwing his papers all over the place. It's a length there, I think. Just about clear water, just a length.
So, I mean, if you can get a length in an 8, you've got to feel good, but at some point maybe you've got to pay the piper. So they are out just over a length, a little bit of clear water, but that Newcastle Cox is not going to let that crew back down off the power. They are here to win. Brooks are here to win, but obviously only one of them is going to do it. So they're going to get to about halfway in the next 30 seconds, but it's Brooks with that commanding lead, and it still looks like they're moving.
Well, we are probably, 300 or 400 metres down from the enclosure, and we can hear the noise now as they hit the enclosures. The volume, unbelievable. Plenty of support there for both crews. And to be fair, the crowd supported anything like a close race. People would come out and start hollering and cheering. And here come Newcastle. They're having a real go now to get back on terms.
So we got the really great drone footage. It's about a length and a quarter right now. You always have to love how Newcastle row, but Brooks have found something and they are sitting there and they are going to want to keep that door shut.
Next up is the championship quads. That's Thames and another representation from Newcastle in the shape of their quad. But this one, they got a lot to do, haven't they?
They have, and they are running out of river, so probably about 500 metres to go, and it still looks like it was throughout the whole of that middle third, with Oxford Brooks just being able to keep an eye on what this Newcastle crew are doing. The Newcastle crew will still be seeing puddles, hearing that crew just behind and to the right of them. But this Brooks crew do not look like they've blown a gasket or anything. There's plenty of length, plenty of power, and they are going to be in a really strong position with about 350 to play.
And as they move out of shot, the next camera angle will pick it up, and this now is the race for home. It's Oxford Brooks University A crew leading this as they have done from the start, and they're really cranking it up now for a big finish. Newcastle just that bit too far back to make an impression here.
Well, at some point another name was going to go on that trophy, and these are two of the powerhouses of university women's rowing, and both crews have executed well, rowed really powerfully, and that was hands going up there from Brooks.
Next up, it is the Championship quadruple sculls. And this is Thames against Newcastle University. And it's for the Bourne Cup. Kindly sponsored by the Copus Partnership. Top of the island, and it's Newcastle this time.
So Newcastle missing out in that last race, obviously 4 different athletes, but still with that intention to win. Both crews pretty close together in the middle of the course, just coming through into the boomed section, and both crews looking very sharp. Some really fine angles being shown on those blades. So lots of uniformity, very synchronized, very powerful. So as standard, there are geese which have just parted like the Red Sea. Don't think it has affected that Thames crew, but that Newcastle crew, as they come off the race start and have settled down into that middle of the race rhythm, they just seem to have moved out to about a half a length lead.
They're approaching us now. If anything, I would say Thames have come back a bit here. They're just about to pass level with us. We'll have a much better view. Yeah, I would say that they've closed on them. That's less than half a length now, agree?
Absolutely. So that bow ball was on the 2 girl, so just a little bit less, couple of feet less than half a length. But I would agree, they started to move back. So maybe they've now found their rhythm and really found that efficiency and started to move the boat well.
So you won't be able to take your eyes off this one. It is Newcastle University that lead at the moment. Thames nearest to the bank, and as the drone switches round, it's kidding us into think that this lead is stretching. They're narrowing and stretching, but I think Newcastle have possibly had a push there. They can hear that noise again, the huge crowds down in the enclosures cheering these crews on. Now, can Thames respond? Can they find a little bit of something in the tank? If anything, Newcastle have probably moved away a little bit.
Just a little bit. I was just having a watch there, and their rating is slightly higher, so they are taking probably about 1 extra stroke a minute. And if you think how far a boat can go in a stroke, that can make a difference. So they are still rating just fractionally higher, but it still hasn't changed much. There is certainly overlap. Probably 3/4 of a length right now. Really good shots right here. The angles are still good. It's still tight. Must be going into the last 500 meters. So these guys are going to be looking for about a 90 to 100 second burn to finish off their weekend.
And it's hovered around the half length now. Depends really whether Newcastle decide to go first or whether they wait and react to the challenge from Thames. You can see there the finish line just up by Remenham Club, and there's not that much water left. They're going to have a push. They need to do it now. We're looking at the top right hand screen. The start of the next race, which is the Championship 8, has got underway. We'll keep an eye on both of these. Alex, Championship 8.
So got a bit of personal interest there because the Cox in that GB under-23 boat is actually from the University of Birmingham. Interesting that they haven't had that much water time together, so they feel like each round they're getting a little bit more in sync, can just work with each other just a little bit better, and they're up against a Yale crew who have looked strong going through the rounds. So in that one, the Championship 8, that's the Ron Needs Challenge Cup, which is kindly sponsored by the Colgan Foundation. But as we see, it's cut back to that Bourne Cup in the Champ Quads, and that is a win for Newcastle University over Thames Rowing Club.
Well, one more race to come after this one. We'll give a round up of some results just as soon as we have a chance to draw breath here as the crews pass under our commentary position. You can hear the coxes.
So that Yale crew obviously have been rowing together a lot. They're about a length down now. So the clubs and universities involved in that composite, it is a mix. You've got Tideway Scullers, 2 from UL, Molesey, Leander, Marlow, Plymouth, Durham, and the University of Birmingham in there. So it is a big mix. As I say, they haven't had a huge amount of time together, but they have got off to a really good first third of that race going into the halfway mark. They can see, like everyone in that boat can see the opposition. They can see those Ys on the back of the Yale girls, and they're just going to keep kicking away from that, keep extending that lead, one stroke at a time, pressing out those centimetres, pushing for length. But at the moment looks really efficient, really strong, really powerful.
The last race of the day, the Junior 8s, has just gone on to the stake boats as we watch the GB Composite crew leading Yale, and they really are motoring down there, don't they?
Yeah, well, they've got about a half a length of clear water, and it doesn't look like they want to let up. If we just look at the cover, it's about even for each crew. So that stroke blade is going in around the 2 puddle, happening in both crews. But that GB under 23 composite crew must just be sending those puddles a few centimetres a stroke further. Really, really getting those legs down powerfully. Just a really slick operation. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop as a crew. So what you'll be seeing there on the near side, we have the Junior 8s. That's going to be an interesting one. I believe it's 2 American crews. Don't have the names quite to hand at the moment.
It's National Cathedral School that dead heated with the other American crew, which was Phillips Academy.
So it'll be interesting to see if that extra race in the legs is going to make an impact to that final. The footage you can see in the back of the screen, the crew from Great Britain sitting pretty comfortably ahead of that Yale crew. So very well done to them. I'm sure they'll be looking forward to receiving their prizes at the end of the day. But I reckon we cut to this Junior 8 final now.
Yeah, and in the Junior 8 final, as I say, it is Green Lake that are on the Berkshire Station, and National Cathedral School from the USA on the Buck Station.
So that one's called the Peabody Cup, and kindly sponsored by Simmons and Sons. So an 8s race, and again, it's going to be 2 quick boats coming down this course. You always look at these American school crews that come across and just think these athletes are big. So these crews are no exception. You don't want to travel that far to get backdoored or knocked out, and these 2 have made it into the final. And at the moment, there is a 1 length lead to the crew on the Berkshire Station.
Yeah, it's Green Lake in a boat that they borrowed from Shiplake College or loaned, and the crew, as you say, that had that dead heat, had a re-row. The reason why this late race has been put back to give them a bit more time to recover, and it is probably showing now. They're a length down as we move through to the enclosures for the last time of what's been an absolutely superb regatta.
So that National Cathedral School still living out in front. Still working hard though. Oh, my bad. The other way. Is the Green Lake crew out in front? Okay, so
Yeah, after a grueling race earlier against Phillips Academy, it's National Cathedral School there that are just not able to get on terms with Green Lake. A lot of power, as you say, from these Americans.
yeah, so they've gone beyond the boating area now. So Green Lake's A crew looking strong, sitting at about a length and a half in front. As we watch this drone footage of, I believe, the final of the day. So this will be it from Henley Women's Regatta 2018. But both crews working really hard to bring the curtain down on the event this year. So still keeping a really punchy rate. That Green Lake School really working hard into the finish. Looking slightly cleaner than the National Cathedral School, who I would say that extra 1.5K of work has not done them any favours. So still working hard. Still making a really good showing for themselves. But it looks like this Green Lake crew is sitting pretty strongly out in front. So they'll be going back stateside with the hardware in this one. So that is them crossing the line to win the Junior 8, which is the Peabody Cup, sponsored by Simmons & Sons, and that will be the last final for Henley Women's Regatta 2018.